On your Tuesday episode of Locked On Raptors, which teams in the Eastern Conference stand a chance of leapfrogging the Raptors compared to where they finished last year? Are the Raptors due for a jersey redesign? And there are some bench players who could take some jumps this season that could help the Raptors' cause. We get into all those questions and more in a mailbag edition of Locked On Raptors with Katie Heindl. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. It is Tuesday, August the... Oh God, I don't know what day Tuesday is going to be because we're recording this the previous Wednesday, Tuesday, August the 15th, I think. I'm your host, Sean Woodley. I've been covering the Toronto Raptors now for 9 seasons on various platforms. You can find all my work over on Twitter at WoodleySean. You can follow the show on Instagram at Locked On Raptors. And of course, you can join the Locked On Raptors Discord server, a place where sickos hang out among sickos. It is a great time. Lots of, ongoing rumors and scuttlebutt and Pascal Siakam talk yesterday. We got Blue Jays talk. We got sports cards talk. We got shoe talk. If there's a thing you like to talk about with people on the internet, we're talking about it in the Locked On Raptors Discord. So come hang out. Link is in the description. Would love to see you in there. Shout out to our pal from Spain who jumped in yesterday. I forget the name of the person who jumped in because people use weird handles on Discord and I can never remember them. But that's fine. Come bring your weird handle to Discord. We'd love to see you there. Also, please subscribe, follow, rate, review on your favorite podcast apps for free each and every day. We're also on YouTube if you want to go see the video feed of the show every day as well. Let's get to it. It's a mailbag, and joining me is the lovely Katie Heindl from Dime, from Basketball Feelings, from staying up very late to cover the World Cup. Katie, how the hell are you?
I'm good. No longer staying up so late to cover the World Cup, which feels great.
Yeah, the big sporting events on the other side of the world oftentimes will cause you to go a little crazy. I remember back in 2014. I was still in university, so I had nothing going on, and the Olympics were in Russia, and we would stay up and just watch the Olympics all night and sleep during the day, and boy, oh boy, did no schoolwork get done, and did I feel like crap after 2 weeks. It was awful, but, shout out to Mark McMorris, I guess. I don't know. Let's dive in, Katie, to today's mailbag questions. As we're running through your mailbag questions here, we're recording this again last week on Wednesday as I'm on vacation now, gallivanting throughout the West Coast. And so, if there's anything that's broken, if we're just sitting here talking and the Raptors have traded Pascal Siakam and we're not commenting on it, that's why. Don't worry. We'll get something up. Our pal Nick Angstadt and Vivek Jacob are going to hop in if, in fact, there is some sort of big news. But for now, let's just do vacation mode mailbag, Katie. Let's bring up the first question. And this one comes in from, I got to pull up my list of questions here. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. I'm bad at this, aren't I?
Your vacation
I had
mode.
the question, and then I
It's
lost
all
it.
good.
Here it is. This one's from Matt T in the Discord. What teams in the East could theoretically leapfrog the Raptors in the standings next season? I forget the standings from last season already, Katie, so I'm just going to pull it up as a little reminder and a little guide. So the Raptors, of course, finished 10th in the Eastern Conference, I guess 9th pure record-wise, but they got bumped down to 10th technically because of their play-in loss. So we'll say 9th for the sake of this for record purposes. They finished 1 game ahead of the Chicago Bulls, who were 10th. The Indiana Pacers were 11th at 35-47, same record as the Wizards at 35-47. The Magic 34-48, down in 13th. The Hornets in 14th at 27-55, and the Detroit Pistons 17-65. Rough year for the Detroit Pistons. Are they one of the teams that could leapfrog the Raptors here, Katie? Who do you got? Of this group of teams, Bulls, Pacers, Wizards, Magic, Hornets, Pistons, who are you scared about making the leapfrog over the Raptors? Of course, there's not a lot of room for error for the Raptors if they want to get back into the top 10 and get into that juicy play-in game that everybody loves. I feel like I'm the only person who likes it and wants to be in it, but that's another conversation for another day. Among those teams, Katie, who you got as a leapfrogger of the Raptors this year?
Yeah, as a biased pick that I don't think is a surprise because I believe I've said this before this summer. the Pistons.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I guess a more realistic or less biased pick, probably the Pacers.
Mm-hmm. Why? Let's get into the Pacers. Why the
You don't want to
Pacers?
talk about the Pistons?
We'll talk about the Pistons. I just don't
My
think they're going to
Pistons?
leapfrog the Raptors. We'll get to your Pistons in a second. But the Pacers, of course, they bring in Obi Toppin. They have Tyrese Haliburton and Miles Turner, and they draft Jarris Walker. They sign Bruce Brown to a big, massive contract. Great for Bruce Brown. Is the Bruce Brown thing just enough for you, Katie? And is like the step forward taken by a Tyrese Haliburton in year 5 now? Like, is that kind of the thing for you? Like, what is it that, or I guess it's year 4 for Haliburton. Either way, what is the sort of reasoning for the Pacers being the team that you've circled here?
Based on the shifts that the Raptors have made now in the offseason, I would have said the Pacers would have been enough even before those additions.
Okay.
But you kind of add all those guys you mentioned into the mix, and I just think they are a technically more skilled team. I think they're a stronger team. They're a more cohesive team. They make more sense to me on paper in terms of what they kind of look and feel of the team will be. It feels like a slight deviation from like a late Mavs era Rick Carlisle team, but I like the deviation and the way that it's going in. I also know there are improvements for, like, you talking about Miles Turner. Haven't mentioned someone like TJ McConnell, who I know has been working on his 3-point shooting with Jenny Busek. And I think that's like something worth mentioning too. You mentioned Haliburton. I think Obi Toppin is going to get a lot more generous usage and not the kind of like break your bones down to dust Tibbs usage. I just think he'll generally have a bit more freedom on the floor, which I'm really looking forward to. I like Obi Toppin quite a bit. I think it'll be cool to see him play like within another system. Mathurin also, I think, is like a cool player to watch and see what he's going to be able to do this season. Haliburton, yes, I do think the leap could be there. Generally, like for the Pacers team, I'm always kind of chasing that, I guess, like 2014-15-ish Pacers team that was really fast, super fun. I don't know that this team will be actually just like quick and as kind of frenetic, which again is a good thing. But generally the concept of the Pacers makes a lot more sense to me than the concept of the Raptors as is, as we're talking about it right now. So yeah, I think generally just like a more solid team. Obviously their win record last season leaves something to be desired. But again, with all these additions you make, I didn't even talk about Bruce Brown, who's just shown what he can do regardless of the minutes that you give him. And also is just this kind of like very, very valuable, almost like tightener. Like he can kind of finesse and fix all these little gaps, you know? And I don't think even the Pacers have that many gaps now, but Bruce Brown will just be able to kind of come in there and keep thinking of all these like mechanic and be like, grease the situation. But like he's
just walking in with his wrench and a rag ready to go. Yeah.
And like he understands also his value now, which I think, not to say he didn't before, but like coming off a title, you know, like it's just somebody's got an extra little bit of like pep in their step, I think. So overall, I just think this is going to be a really fun and exciting team to watch. And even if you just want to talk about that, not standings, they may be a more appealing watch to me.
Oh, I don't think that's even a question at the moment. We don't know how Darko Ball is going to change things. But, right now, the Pacers, you know, they notably like shoot threes and play fast offense and have a lot of guards, which is something they're like the anti-Raptors in a lot of ways. Sorry, carry on.
No, I think that's about it.
Yeah.
Just really looking forward to watching the Pacers play basketball.
Yeah, I think the Pacers are going to be a really good test case of a theory that we've kind of kicked around on this show of fit and chemistry kind of being the decider between teams that are pretty talented, because most of the league is pretty talented right now. And the Raptors, I think if you were to sort of stack these rosters up 1 through 10, probably take the Raptors, like just in terms of overall upside and talent. I think like Jakob Poeltl, Miles Turner is a very similar comp. I think, Pascal Siakam is still the best player on either team at this point. Scotty Barnes, we'll see what he kind of ascends into. I'd take Haliburton over him right now. But I think if you go through the rosters, the Raptors 1 through 10, 1 through 12, probably a little more talented, but the Pacers just make a lot of sense, right? Like Miles Turner as a shooting big man creates a lot of space. He makes it like just sort of the geometry of the floor make a lot more sense. It's a lot less cluttered for their guards. I think Bruce Brown's going to slot in beautifully as like a backcourt partner to Haliburton, take some of the ball handling duties away, and obviously can kind of work as a great cutter and 3-point shooter off of that. I do wonder about the youth and sort of the second year challenge of kind of coming in with some level of expectation. I think the Pacers have some level of expectation, which they didn't last year. And as much as I like Ben Mathurin and Obi Toppin and Jarris Walker and Andrew Nembhard, I'm not convinced that they're just like guaranteed going to be excellent in year 2, because that's very hard to do. And I think Mathurin, we saw last year, really hot start, kind of petered out as the season went along, and his playmaking leaves a lot to be desired. I think it's going to be more of a sort of growing pain-filled season for the Pacers than maybe we're giving them credit for. But that said, the fit is so obvious with a lot of their best players that I could see that still kind of translating to a lot of wins. And it's worth noting that Tyrese Haliburton also missed a ton of time last year, which coincided with their slide down the standings, as they were a playoff team for a big chunk of the year. So I'm with you. I think the Pacers stand a pretty good chance because of that chemistry. Honestly, beyond that, I'm not really convinced. We talked about the Pistons. Like, we'll see. I need to see Cade Cunningham actually play before I believe anything about the Pistons. And maybe, hey, the USA stuff he's doing right now is really impressive. That's exciting, but I'm not convinced. I think the Hornets are going to be abjectly terrible, and I hope they're abjectly terrible considering who they're willingly employing on their roster. The Wizards are going to be maybe the worst team in basketball, and the Magic, actually, let's continue this conversation, Katie, because this is longer than a one segment worth of mailbag questions. So shout out to you, Matt T. We will finish off addressing this question. We'll talk about the Magic. We'll talk about the Pistons. We'll talk about teams the Raptors could maybe jump in just a second. Before we do that, however, got to tell you about our good friends over at FanDuel, the #1 sports book in all the land. Go check them out right now, because football season is about to kick off, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to win all season long, because right now, when you bet on a Super Bowl winner, you can get bonus bets every single time they win in the regular season. That's making a bet that's going to take care of you all season long. Just pick any team to win the Super Bowl, and you'll get bonus bets for every single victory, and you can use those bonus bets on spreads, on player props, on over-unders, and even more than that. All you got to do is pick that one team, ride them all the way through the season, like I did with the Denver Nuggets last season. Picked them in September, was laughing all the way through the year. Wish I had this bonus bet thing going on for all their regular season wins, because they had like 55 of them. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn right now to start earning bonus bets with America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/LockedOn, the official sportsbook of Locked On. All right, we continue on here with your first listen of the day, Katie Heindl, along, as I think this might be a first in Toronto Raptors, or Locked On Raptors history, not Toronto Raptors history. They don't answer mailbag questions from the Discord. This is like a first 2-segment long mailbag question. Well done, Matt T. Pat on the back. Let's pick it up where we left off. Let's talk about the Pistons, shall we? Again, 17-65 last year. Your beloved Detroit Pistons. They, have a lot of young players. They keep on being like, this is the year that things work out, and it hasn't quite happened yet. They got James Wiseman now. They've got Jalen Duren, going to be 1 year older from being the youngest player in the NBA. They've got Asar Thompson, who looked awesome in Summer League. We know Cade Cunningham's there. Beef Stew's back. Marcus Sasser, a nice draft pick. Like, they have talent. They're also a team full of children. It's a very young team, and that tends to not really lead to a lot of winning. Katie, what's the sort of, you squint and you see the vision here for the Pistons becoming a real heavy hitter in the Eastern Conference and potentially jumping the Raptors, who they won 24 fewer games than last year?
I didn't say it would be a prolonged jump, but I could see them going on a bit of a heater at some point in the season. We haven't even talked about the fact that they got Monty Williams this summer.
Yes, that's a big one.
Think you've got, like you mentioned, it is an incredibly young team. But I also think the oldest of the young players on that roster have been kind of primed and ready to make something of this team and themselves and kind of show up on the stage for years now. Like, I do think I'm very heartened by what I've seen so far of Cade Cunningham, even if Team USA leaves something to be desired. Asar Thompson was amazing at Summer League. I'm very rooting always for Wiseman, but I think within this team and under Monty Williams, he could get the kind of attention and maybe development that he needs and deserves. So, you have that kind of raw talent and lack of experience, but then I do think Monty Williams as a coach balances that out. Not completely, but maybe three quarters of the way there. So I don't know that they can sustain a leap because I do think just experience and kind of steadiness will win out over youthful exuberance and a bit of a fiery run always. But I could see them getting hot for a little bit, and I think they need it also. Like you mentioned,
they need a month stretch where they play fun ball.
Yeah, and I really think they are primed for it. I know every year I'm it's a Pistons year, but and every year I'm they're not that bad of a team. But this year, I think my fandom aside, and just always rooting for the Pistons, on paper they are not a bad team. The talent is there. I think it's just we haven't seen the way that it's all going to come together, and it's certainly quite raw.
I think the thing I like about this team is the complementary veterans they have. Bojan Bogdanovic is probably still their best player right now, and he's really good. You've got Alec Burks. He's very reliable, does the whole thing. You got Joe Harris now. You got Monte Morris. I think there is at least the sort of insurance of adults in the room, I suppose, to kind of help these guys along. I don't know what they're doing with Marvin Bagley and Isaiah Stewart and James Wiseman all in the same front court. We'll see how that all sorts itself out in the wash. But, they're a Cade Cunningham sort of delayed leap away from being a real team. And I look forward to the Pistons being real again, man. I want the Raptors-Pistons games to be juicy and fun and competitive in a way that maybe they haven't been the last couple seasons, either because the Raptors have been better or because Dwayne Casey has owned the Raptors' asses. Orlando, let's quickly hit on them because I don't think we're talking Washington or Charlotte here. No. I know there's a lot of hype around Orlando. They finished the season as a 500 squad after a 4-20 start or whatever. They, obviously Franz Wagner is really, really good. Paolo Banchero, the rookie of the year, he's got a lot of juice going for him. You've got Anthony Black in there now. Markelle Fultz has figured things out to some degree. I still don't really know here, Katie. I still feel like it's a weird roster with a sort of strange fit and a lack of shooting and creation. But that said, they just kind of have a lot of players who are pretty good and can kind of make it work. Where are you at with the Magic and their chances of making the jump? Because I feel like everybody's expecting them to jump over the Raptors, but I still don't think I see that happening just yet.
I think they could. I think they, I've said this before, they remind me of the Cavs maybe 3 seasons ago. Or when did they get Jared Allen?
Midway through the Tampa season?
Yeah.
Season? Yeah.
So 3, if not 2.5 seasons ago, starting to get things together. Maybe not quite ready to make the competitive leap yet, but I think can make a leap just in terms of their own record, team progress, putting together a roster that feels more coherent more of the time. Again, not as unwieldy as the Pistons, but I could see them making a leap at some point in the season or maybe a couple points and then kind of lagging. But I think they'll be a really fun team to watch. And again, I do think a team like the Magic is sort of due for it. Political leanings of their ownership group aside. But everyone that you mentioned, there's no reason why. There is no reason why this can't be the season that it all sort of comes together for them. But I'm always the proof is in sustainability, right? That's sort of the ultimate proof. And of all the teams that we've talked about, I really only think the Pacers have that sustainable metric going for them.
Yeah. The thing with the Magic that gets me is they have a lot of guards. Sure. Markelle Fultz, Jalen Suggs, Cole Anthony, Anthony Black. I'm not sure any of their guards are lead a good NBA team good right now. And as much as Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero are awesome, like they're going to need some sort of lead guarded title together. Maybe that's Anthony Black, but asking a rookie to do that, a rookie who has shooting issues coming out of college to do that, is unfair of Anthony Black. And so, I don't know. Maybe Jalen Suggs figures it out. Maybe Markelle Fultz kind of continues his sort of growth into this sort of weird in-between player. He doesn't really shoot threes, but he's got a lot of other good stuff going for him. I don't think Cole Anthony's like amazing. He would be like the second best guard on the Raptors, so I can't really throw stones. But like they kind of have the similar concern for me as the Raptors do, which is lots of like fun playmaking forward talent, but who ties it all together? I'm not sure any of their guards do that right now. And so I'll take the inertia of the Raptors finishing ahead of them right now, even with the loss of Fred VanVleet. Is there a team, Katie? We'll just round out the second segment here, and then we'll rattle through a couple of bonus questions in the back part of the segment, or in the back segment. But is there a team you think the Raptors could jump? The Hawks seemingly got a little bit better and have Quinn Snyder for a full season. I would imagine they'll be better than 41-41, the same record as the Raptors. Obviously, the Heat, we'll see what the hell happens with them. But if they don't pull off a Dame trade, I think maybe a bit of a step back is possible there just because of the guys they lost. The Bulls, the Raptors finished ahead of. The Bulls depress me. I don't really even like talking about the Bulls because the Lonzo thing just bums me out. The Nets feel like the team if they are going to jump somebody. Do you think the Raptors got the juice to jump the Brooklyn Nets, who finished 45-37 last year, were not very good after the Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving trades, and are going to be asking Mikal Bridges to just like be the guy, I guess, with a roster that's kind of weird and samey and deep in very okay players, but maybe not great players? Where are you at with the Nets and the Raptors' chances of jumping them?
To me, the Nets are always the best when no one's paying attention to them, and when they're kind of left alone. And the thing with the Nets is like they've been left alone less in the past seasons than they have had this kind of attention on them because of who they've made huge, I don't know, like franchise future forfeiting moves to sign.
Say that 5 times fast.
Yeah. I think Mikal Bridges could be the guy for them, right? Like sometimes the guy that a team has, it doesn't mean that like on the NBA scale, no, you might not consider that person there, but for that team, like they are at that moment. I think it will be close. It could be close between the Raptors and the Nets. I'd have to honestly, like, it's tough. It is very tough for me to picture Raptors basketball.
It's like an amorphous blob. It's really hard. You're totally
and then pit
right.
it against something like
what are we
Doug
going
Vaughn
to see?
is a good coach, and he's shown that he can do a lot with disparate players, right? That don't seem to make sense, or it's just like, okay, this is who you have left now. That like huge holes have been gouged out of your team, but he still managed to make it work, right? Like I think that team's pretty scrappy. They're pretty fast. They do have shooting. So if like Toronto's got to really put something together, they could do it. I don't really see the Heat. The Heat will probably take a step back just because of the role players that they lost if they don't make the Dame move. But I don't see the Raptors really jumping them as is. So the Nets might be the kind of closest in reach. I think the Hawks, while I'm always a little bit dubious about the Hawks in terms
Me too.
like their level of sameness, like consistently just being this sort of middle of the pack team for 2-3 seasons now, and not really seeing these leaps that they're supposed to make. Quinn Snyder, of course, I'm blanking every time I just think of his face. Wow, what a guy. But no, I think one full season of him at the helm there could really pick things up. It could hopefully spark something. He's a sparking kind of guy. So the team really does need like a defibrillator to the chest, and that's what Quinn Snyder provides. So
as someone in the Locked On Raptors Discord said, I can't remember who. I apologize to whoever it is who I'm not giving proper credit to this joke for. But someone said Quinn Snyder has a great history of winning lots of regular season games with overrated guards. And you know what? He does. So I'm expecting the Hawks to be pretty all right this year, even with the misgivings I have with that team and Trae Young as a player and all that stuff. We will come back on the other side, Katie. We have other mailbag questions. Matt T, too much time. 2 segments worth of time devoted to your question. It's going to go to his head now. So we got to come back on the other side. Get a couple of other questions in to round out the show. Before we do that, just a reminder, go check out Locked On Blue Jays with our pal Craig Ballard running through each and every day of Blue Jays action. Katie's favorite team and sport.
Go Birds.
And I mean, they're working towards the playoffs right now. They are fighting off the Mariners for the wild card. They're chasing down the Rays and the Orioles, and Craig has you covered each and every day on your favorite podcast apps and on YouTube. Go check out Locked On Blue Jays. All right, Katie, let's get to a couple more questions. This one comes from Psychic, asking, I've been hearing more and more people saying that they're tired of the chevrons. More and more are saying it, Katie. What throwback would be the best to replace the current jerseys? My personal idea, we need to bring back pinstripes. Katie,
No.
I have said a lot on this show over the last couple of years that the Raptors are desperately in need of a jersey redesign. I don't get the sense that we're getting it this year. It's long overdue. The jerseys right now stink. I really, really can't stand looking at them anymore. There's one good jersey in their repertoire, and it is the black with the pinstripes and the sort of non-chevron Raptors across the front. And frankly, I'd be fine if they adopted a version of that as their full-time jersey. But Katie, is there another sort of throwback option? Are we just at the point where they should just do the damn purple dinosaur again?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always for that. Like, that was my childhood era. So, yeah, like, that's what I'm always going to lean toward. I don't mind, like, the curved Raptor. Like, if they just kind of curve the text rather than make it such, like, a abrupt chevron. I, too, am pretty tired of the chevrons. I think we're out of the We the North era. It feels a little bit like the vibe is very much like we printed too much of this t-shirt and we gotta stick with it until we give them all away. Honestly, that's really what it feels like as someone who walks the tunnels of Scotiabank Arena, just sees pallets and pallets of t-shirts and like old giveaways. Yes, like I do think that's the case. And maybe, you know, that's not where MLSE wants to spend their money right now. But I do think if you don't want to do a total new redesign, then stop just doing these little tweaks and adjustments on this, like, We the North chevron. Like, oh, we added another chevron, or like this chevron's in shadow or something.
Yeah. This
like,
chevron has some artistic meaning. That's
we added a
really
little
sensible.
squiggle to this chevron. Like, enough with that. Bring back something that you already kind of have, right? The bones for. Oh, good pun.
Bone theme. This is like dinosaur.
Yeah.
Bone pinstripes, just like
No.
like a dinosaur's vertebrae is the pinstripes.
Don't they have that? Or
No, it's like the zigzag pinstripe, which is very good, by the way, Katie. I think you're underrating the pinstripe.
I don't like a pinstripe. The pinstripe to me is like part of the worst. Like, I always think of the Rockets, like pinstripe jersey.
But those
like,
are the best Raptors jerseys too. They had like the zigzag pinstripe on the original Raptors jerseys.
I hate the pinstripe. I hate any pinstripe jersey, so I can't be with you there. But yeah, man, like bring back the purple. You and I, huge fans of that living red. I liked that. A part of me is even like, I don't know if this is just pure like being so tired of the current situation. Like, a part of me is, I don't mind that, like, was it like late Bosch, early Amir Johnson era, like Raptors uniform, which to me was just like the most boring thing at the time. But now I'm like, why not? It's clean, you know, pretty simple.
With that like weird font that I don't even know like what the name of the font was, like the very sort of skinny font.
Yeah. Bring it back.
I'm gonna make a declaration on the podcast here, Katie. The 90s are in again. It's cool to wear stuff from the 90s. You see what the youths are wearing out there, Katie? It's all baggy clothes and weird sweaters and 90s stuff, up and down. I think it's just time to go full bore dinosaur jersey again. Everyone agrees it's the best jersey. It gets ranked as like the best jersey of all time on your random Bleacher Report lists all the time. And everyone is just like crazy whenever it comes back out, and everyone buys them in giant buckets. It's a really, really good jersey. I have the white Kyle Lowry throwback. with the dinosaur. It looks fantastic. It's like the one basketball jersey that I can wear and not look like a doofus in, because it's really good. I think the purple is fantastic, and you could even do like a black version of it with the dinosaur on it and with red trim. You could do a full red version of it, which I think there exists some concepts of out there. Bring back purple. Bring back just the thing that everybody agrees is an excellent jersey. It's associated with a bad time in the franchise, I know, but it's well in the past. This is a championship franchise now. You can dip back into the well and go to those mid-90s jerseys, and I think everyone would be over the moon with it. Across the league, it wouldn't just be Raptors fans. You get to see the Raptor wearing that jersey again. Well, what a thrill that would be. Bring it back. I think it's time. And those at MLSE who are definitely not listening to this, please take these words to heart. Let's get one last question in here, Katie. A quick one from our friend Blue Steel in the Discord. Here we go. Which bench player do you think is going to have the biggest, most noticeable improvement for the Raptors this season? So we're talking, we can go guys who were not on the team before as well. Jalen McDaniels, does he pop? You got Dennis Schroeder. You've got Precious Achiuwa. You've got Malachi Flynn. You've got Christian Koloko. You've got Chris Boucher, who's now over 30, so maybe there's no leap coming there. Who do you got? Bench guy who's going to take a jump. Is Precious the kind of stock answer here? Do you buy the Precious sort of bounce back season? Where are you at with bench guys who could take a jump here?
Yeah, I think I'm always rooting for Precious Achiuwa to to me, it's like it still makes a lot of sense where his kind of legs have happened, they're not that mysterious to me. So I don't know if saying like, oh, if he's going to finally quote, like finally make a jump makes that much sense, because I think he's sort of due for one. He has been sort of trending that way. I really question how he kind of stepped back under Nick Nurse now that we know just like how kind of disparate things were within the coaching staff last season. I mean, just in terms of someone I'd love to see play, assuming he is still on the team when the season starts, Otto Porter Jr. could be like, to me, any play time is an improvement. So that would be good.
It's like a luxury that would be lovely to. It would be wonderful
if
he could play. It would be amazing.
Would love to see
some things so much.
Would love to see him on the floor. Would love to see him playing some minutes. Kind of for the purpose I think that the team signed him for. So probably like those two. Boucher's to me like a steady state at this point, which is it's a good thing. And I don't mean that disparagingly at all. It's like he's shown where he can be reliable, and that. He's like a good bench guy. So I guess those first two are my two.
Yeah, Precious, I think it's a little underrated how weird his last season was and how abrupt and disjointed and interrupted it was. He starts the season off and, he's kind of getting limited play time. Nick Nurse is calling him out. His offense is not there whatsoever. And that was bad, but also, maybe Nick Nurse should have just kind of ridden with him a little longer, because they had 7 good players at any given night. It could have used an 8th. God, I'm not going to miss the Nick Nurse experience at all. Holy, I'm coming to realize this more and more every single day. But then he gets hurt, and it's a bad injury. It totally derails him. He gets back, and then in January, he looks really good and kind of tapping back into, maybe not with the same degree of three-point shooting, but tapping back into what made him successful in the 21-22 season. And then Jakob Poeltl comes in and the whole rotation gets mixed up, and Nick Nurse keeps saying he's not a center while continually playing him as a center. And it just was kind of a lost season for him. The defense still plays, and the offensive bar is not that high to clear. I think there's a real chance he kind of has a bit of a bounce back this season. And, I don't think he's going to be necessarily like a star, but a very good, additional complimentary piece. Absolutely. I think that's still very much in the cards for him. And then the other guy is Christian Koloko. I don't know if he's going to be in the rotation right away. I think maybe they'll roll Chris Boucher as like a small ball 5, kind of just because they have a lot of dudes in that sort of front court glut at the moment, and he makes the most sense just to kind of stick out there as a backup to Yak. But I think as the season goes along, we could see Koloko get more run. I think having Dennis Schroeder to play with in those second units will be valuable for him. And he's never played with like a backup point guard before, and so I think there's some real potential for Christian Coloco to kind of realize his really excellent backup big future, which I think is kind of where he's going to slot in. And I think this could be a pretty good step forward for that this season for old Christian Coloco. With that, Katie, we'll leave it there. Thank you to those who sent questions in. If we didn't get to your question that you sent in on the Discord today, don't worry. We've got multiple mailbags coming out over the course of the next couple of weeks while I am on vacation, so no worries there. Katie, anything you want to promote for the good people out there before we get out of here?
No. Basketball feelings. Oh, yes. Basketball feelings. Thanks, John. Is actually we're still in exits, but we are rounding the turn. The finals are in sight. This is normal timing. This isn't taking longer. The whole point of exits is it sees me through the off season.
You gotta take time to think and reflect. It's important. Yeah.
Yes. But Jordan Liggins, the wonderful Jordan Liggins, that one was just published last week on the Lakers. We've got the Celtics up next with a rare duo guest writers.
Ooh.
Kind of like a therapy session for Celtics fans is what it worked out to.
Even
if you are not a Celtics fan, you may enjoy it just for the hubris involved. And then, of course, the Heat and the Nuggets. So it's almost done. You can find that at basketballfeelings.com.
Amazing. Everyone go check out Basketball Feelings. I'm a paid subscriber. It's worth it. Go do it. You can find Katie on Twitter at whatevs. You can find me on Twitter at Woodley Sean. You can find the show on Instagram at Locked On Raptors. You can find the show in the Discord. The link is in the description. Come hang out. It's a great time. And we're helping you get through the off season. We're playing hoop grids. We're doing all sorts of fun stuff in there. So please do that. And we'll be back again on Thursday with another mailbag edition. A little vacation mail continues as we continue to kind of ride out the summer here and wait for some stuff to happen. With that, we will leave you there. Thank you so much, and we will talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.